and it can really mess with your mind, and it can take a while to recover from. In my head. Hello everybody, if you're new here, I do mental health videos Monday through Friday, so if you're interested in mental health, hit subscribe and hit the bell after you hit subscribe to get notified every time that I do a video. In this video, we're going to be talking about emotional abuse, specifically gaslighting. It's a tough thing to go through. We're going to discuss what it is, what we can do to manage it, and go from there. Let's go over what gaslighting is very quickly. Gaslighting is encouraging somebody to doubt their beliefs over and over and over again, and in doing so you gain some sort of control over them because you've got them doubting their thoughts, and now you can kind of dictate what their thoughts are going to be, or get them to go along with what you think, or make yourself the person who they use as a guidance system, in other words, so that you choose how their life goes and you choose what is truth and what is false for them. And it's something that I think it's fairly uncommon. I think a lot of people think it's happening when it's not happening, and we're going to discuss that. But it is a form of emotional abuse. It is very rattling when you've experienced it yourself. I have experienced it myself, so I get it. If you're somebody out there who has gone through gaslighting, I've gone through it. It sucks. I get it. And it can really mess with your mind, and it can take a while to recover from. So emotional abuse is tough in general because people can't see emotional abuse, and a lot of people don't think it's real. And gaslighting in particular can be frustrating because if they're manipulating what you see as truth and fact and fiction and dictating again what you think, they may also, the person who's doing this, your abuser, they may also be saying to other people that you're crazy and making it seem like you have some kind of a problem, where they might be acting totally fine around other people. So there's a lot of different ways this can manifest. Let's talk about some of them. The first thing that I have to say is that gaslighting is not exclusive to narcissistic personality disorder. I know there's like a whole culture out there that wants to blame narcissistic personality disorder for everything, or narcissistic people. All abuse is narcissistic, and so there's no need to say that it's a particular personality disorder that causes abuse. You can't abuse somebody without not caring about them, without having an impaired empathy for them. And while that is a symptom of narcissistic personality disorder, it's also a symptom of borderline personality disorder and any of the other personality disorders. So we shouldn't lock it down to a specific personality disorder, as well as you don't have to have a personality disorder to be abusive or to do gaslighting. So I just want to put that out there for people to understand, because a lot of people get caught in this idea of pinpointing it on a specific disorder, or like trying to figure out if this person has a specific disorder. It's not important. Just focus on what's going on in front of you, which is whether or not you're being gaslighted and how you can manage it. Before I get into all that, I also would like to add that gaslighting is not always intentional. Sometimes there is a personality disorder involved and the person doesn't realize that they're gaslighting you, and you might think like, well, how is that possible? For one thing, if somebody just believes in their own truth more than your truth, they're going to doubt you. They're going to question your truth, and they're going to possibly get you to doubt your truth. They're not necessarily intentionally trying to manipulate you or use you in any way. That's just a part of their personality, or it's just the way that they interact with somebody like you. If you're somebody who's gone through abuse before, maybe you have post-traumatic stress disorder yourself, emotional abuse especially, it can be really hard when somebody doesn't validate your experience. And something to understand is that not everybody has to validate your experience. The world is the way it is, and people don't always care for your experience. They may not agree with your opinion, they may not agree with the facts of what happened, and so it's a normal part of everyday life that people will invalidate you, and it's not for the world to bend to you. That's something you'll have to work on for yourself. You know, if you have post-traumatic stress disorder, there's ways to heal from that, and that's something to work on. And then that's not me trying to gaslight you here right now. That's just the way life is. Life has invalidation as a part of it, so you have to work on that. Hopefully you will find somebody to work on that with who is not invalidating, who can listen to you talk about your trauma and go through that experience with you, because part of healing is going to be having your abuse validated, but it's not up to everybody in the world to be your healer. Not everybody's even trained to be your healer. I know that's not necessarily why you came to this video, but it's something that I feel like I have to throw in there because there's a lot of misunderstandings about this, and if you're not clear on what's going on, you're not going to be able to handle gaslighting, to move on forward from it and heal from whatever's going on in your life. Because if it's PTSD that's making you feel constantly invalidated, it may be that there's not gaslighting happening at all, and what you should be working on is the PTSD. The first thing to know if you are being gaslighted or not is to write down what's going on so that you have facts about what's going on and your opinion can't be questioned, because you know this is what you said, this is what that person said, and there's nothing to dispute. They can say that you're wrong, but you know what you recorded, you know what you wrote down, and be as accurate as you can. You know, if you just had a fight and you know that this person's gonna maybe use this against you later and try to make you doubt yourself, write down what you said after the fight and keep a record of it, and that way you know. If they move things around the house, for example, put things in very specific places so you know if it was moved. And don't doubt yourself after this, you know, make it easy on yourself. And if you get to this point where you're questioning yourself so much, that might be a time to think about not being around this person so much in the first place. I think that's probably one of the best tips I could give when it comes to gaslighting, is to just be away from the person for a while, because if you keep feeling this doubt when you're around them, being around other people might start to restore your sense of confidence in yourself. And once you have that confidence in yourself and you go back to being around that person, you'll be able to know whether or not you're making the correct decisions, because your internal compass of trust for yourself and trust for your decisions will tell you, okay, no, that's not what's really going on here. Something else that you might want to do is to have outside sources that you know that you can trust, that you can confirm things with. So you can ask them, you know, did you see that the same way that I saw it? And make sure they're people that you really can trust, because if they also know this person well, there's a good chance that they're going to side with that person if they've known them for longer, if they just want to keep a friendship with them. They may also question you. And again, this could be an example of somebody not deliberately gaslighting you, but they feel caught in between two people and they're not really sure what to do. And so they might say to you, well, I don't really know if that's what I saw. And they're not deliberately trying to gaslight you. They just don't know what to say. And so unfortunately, they are helping you doubt yourself, which is not what you want in this case. So you want to find people who are divorced from the situation, who you can trust. I think something else that's really important when it comes to this is to not get involved in these arguments that just go around and around and around, where they're doubting you and you're doubting yourself, and then you're doubting them, and there's like questions back and forth. Because when all these questions keep coming up and there's no definitive answers, that's a very easy environment to get into a situation where you feel like you can't trust yourself. So lay down a boundary when it starts feeling like that and say, you know, I don't think I can do this conversation right now. Maybe we can revisit it a little bit later, and walk away. And if you're somebody who has trouble setting boundaries, I've got free worksheets over on my Patreon page, so check those out. The little bubble will pop up over here somewhere. But setting a boundary is important because it lets you get that space that I talked about that you need to be able to have a clear head and to think things through on your own without relying on the other person to tell you what to think and how things went, because relying on somebody else to give you that information is a recipe for disaster. You need to trust your own internal compass. When it comes to gaslighting, we just want to be sure that we're actually experiencing gaslighting. And so when we write things down and we check to make sure that they're actually happening, you know, we check with our outside sources, we have verifiable facts, like act like a scientist and verify things. If that's what's going on, then we know that there's gaslighting going on. But if it's something that happens once, that's not gaslighting, because it's not a repetitive behavior. Somebody may say something and you should call them out on it, of course. It's definitely not going to lead to a healthy relationship if that's something that continues. But sometimes people, like I said, they mess things up, they forget things, they don't recall things correctly, and so that's not gaslighting if it happens once. And also, if you're somebody who's been through trauma, you may be overly sensitive to this sort of thing, and you may think it's going on where it may not be going on, and that's where it helps to get some kind of outside outside perspective, preferably from somebody else who is not also traumatized, just to double check and make sure that this is what's actually happening to you, because you're prone to feeling invalidated when you've gone through trauma. Now, if this is something that's definitely going on, you have to set a boundary, and you have to set it quickly and let the person know this is not acceptable, and the consequence should be ending that relationship, because you can't have any kind of healthy relationship with somebody who continually tries to make you doubt yourself. There's no way to have any kind of healthy empathy, intimacy with that person. So set that boundary quickly and make plans to leave that relationship as a consequence. If you need help with that kind of thing, I have those worksheets I mentioned over on my Patreon page. If you're new here, I have a lot of videos here, some of them on abuse and PTSD and these kinds of things. So hit subscribe if this is something that you want to learn more about. I'd love to hear from you if you're somebody who's experienced gaslighting. Maybe you've been the person who's gaslighted somebody else. Leave your experience down below for our community to discuss. That way we can learn from each other. And as always, I want to thank you for being here. I'll see you next time, everyone.